Sue, have you already muted everyone?
Yeah, everyone's muted, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. Nice to see so many on. We'll just let a few more people in. We're about halfway to the people that said they would turn up. Obviously, things happen last minute, so we'll just give it a few more minutes or a minute or two. I see a few familiar faces and names. Okay. Just letting a few more in the waiting room.
I think Janice is having a trouble joining. Oh, here she is. I think she's managed to join now.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I just had a message from her.
Okay. Oh, two more people.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Do you think we're nearly there?
I think we are. I would get going if I were you.
Okay. Okay. We'll let people in as they come and join, the latecomers. Well, welcome everybody. Good evening. Before we start, I have a little confession to make. I thought I was doing quite well with my health and nutrition until I learned what you guys are about to learn tonight. So, as time is precious, we're going to crack on. Thank you, everybody, for joining this evening. Just to let you know, this is being recorded, so if you don't want to put your cameras on, that's completely okay. We have muted the audience, but if you have any questions, please don't be shy. Please put them in the chat box, and we'll come back to them later this evening. I'm super excited today because co-hosting with me is Sue, also known as the Sugar-Free Coach, and she's hosting with me. She's a fellow nutritionist. We actually met on an online networking event, so I'm really pleased to have met Sue, and she's going to help us, or help both of us will explain how to heal your intestines in 3 easy steps, or how to heal your gut. So, before we start, I have a little story for you. I got deeply interested in gut health around about 6 months ago when I started to incorporate it more into my nutrition business. I've always believed in natural healing. I actually healed my own thyroid about 5 years ago. I refused to go on thyroxine, and I knew that the gut played a huge part in it because I completely transformed my diet to heal my thyroid. So there was a lifestyle change, there was a diet change, and I believe that our health starts with what we can do for ourselves. Even the doctor was very surprised that I was actually reversed my thyroid. He gave me blood test forms to do every month just to monitor me, and he was quite surprised to see the numbers go down month after month. And I'm still okay with my thyroid now. So that's a little bit about me. And Sue, you've got your own story as well, haven't you? So over to you about your story.
Thank you, Abita. So yes, I'm Sue Thomas. I call myself the Sugar-Free Coach. I've been in the wellness industry for 20 years. I'm a nutritional therapist. I used to be a personal trainer, but the reason why I became a nutritional therapist is because back in 2009, I was personal training. I had a knee infection, a really serious knee infection that led me to have about 25 days of very high dose antibiotics. And I took these antibiotics. It solved the problem as far as my knee infection was concerned. It was a horrible, horrible infection. I couldn't put weight on my left leg. It was really horrible. But fast forward 4 years to 2013, and I really wasn't functioning effectively at all. I was eating rubbish. I was eating to kind of keep what I thought was to keep my energy going. I felt bloated all the time, often didn't digest food properly. I wasn't walking the talk as far as my clients were concerned. I was personal training at the time. And I really just wasn't functioning effectively at all. I wasn't there for my family. I wasn't present for my family because I just wasn't well at all. I was sleeping in the afternoon. I was just exhausted. And if I'm honest, I was probably heading for burnout. But I knew I couldn't carry on like that. Now, I'm someone who needs to walk the talk. I don't believe in saying something and then not doing it myself. I need to set an example to my clients. So I knew I needed to heal my health. So I started by starting with the research into my gut and understanding how my gut functioned and what those antibiotics had done for me or done to me, and how I could then go about supporting my microbiome, my gut health, to improve my long-term well-being. It took me about 18 months to get there, but that is because I'd had 4 years of gradually my health degrading gradually and me not paying attention to it. So there I was in 2013, needing to make a change. So I started down this road of healing my own intestine. And I'm pleased to say that I became a much better coach again. I was there for my clients. I was able to walk the talk, and my relationship, my family's improved. And I started to get on top of all the issues that I was struggling with at the time. So here I am now. It was that point at which I decided that actually I needed to retrain and become a nutritional therapist and start supporting my clients and helping my clients understand how they could improve their long-term well-being by supporting their gut microbiome. So that is what we are going to focus on today, understanding why our gut is so important and why specifically our gut microbiome is so important. So there is no doubt that in 21st century life, we have a global health crisis. We have huge numbers of the population being diagnosed as obese on a daily basis. Over 700 people a day are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. We have large numbers of the population struggling with cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, and gradually the health of the nation is getting worse and worse. And there is a reason for this. And I'm going to explore this as we go through this webinar this evening and help you understand why the health of the nation is getting worse. And we're getting to the point now where our medication is supporting our longevity, but it's not actually supporting our well-being. And I'm going to explain to you the foundation of what is the foundation to our long-term health and how we can help ourselves. So that foundation starts with the core, the gut microbiome. So you have at the base of your health, the gut microbiome, and then building on top of that, you've got 5 pillars essentially. You've got mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. And those 5 pillars sit on top of the gut microbiome. And until our gut microbiome is working effectively, those 5 pillars won't come into place. So it's harder to manage our weight. It's harder to get a good night's sleep. It's harder to prevent autoimmune conditions from beginning to develop, maybe some of those other conditions like type 2 diabetes, et cetera, cardiovascular disease. All of these it's more difficult to manage those conditions unless our gut microbiome is working properly. Now, the microbiome is relatively emerging science. We've really only started to understand the gut microbiome in the last 10 to 15 years. And it's now known that all the bacteria that live on us and in us, if you put them together, would weigh 2 kilograms. So they're starting now to talk about the gut microbiome as being another organ, essentially, because it's this whole functioning ecosystem of microbes that work together to support our long-term well-being. Only your mum loves you more than your gut microbiome does. Your gut microbes are super important to your long-term well-being. And we are made up of so many of these gut microbes. We're actually only 10% human. We've got hundreds and trillions of cells in the body, that 90 trillion of them are our gut bacteria. They're fungi, they're the bacteria that live on us and in us. They live on our hands, they live in our intestine, they live in our mouth. on our skin, they live in the birth canal, they basically function across the body, and they are so important. And having the right balance of these gut microbes is really essential. We want an 80% balance of good bacteria compared to bad bacteria. We need some of the bad bacteria for sure, but we need 80% at least of good bacteria. And for me, when I was struggling with my health back in 2013, it was because I didn't have 80% good bacteria in my gut. My gut had been, the microbes in my intestine had been destroyed by those antibiotics, and that had allowed for pathogens and for yeast and for bad bacteria to start to establish, to colonize my intestine, which was then compromising my health. And so we really want to focus on supporting our gut microbiome and really helping our gut microbiome to serve us as it should do. It's so important to have this healthy microbiome that is communicating with the brain. We have a direct link between the intestine and the brain called the vagus nerve. Anything that happens in the intestine comes out in our emotions. It's also important for those gut microbes that are important for creating all the neurotransmitters and secreting B vitamins from our food, that you name it. There are so many things that the gut microbes are important for. And so we really need to be paying attention to the health of our gut microbes and really what is happening in our intestine. And if you have any kind of symptom like bloating or fast bowel movements or acid reflux, those are just the symptoms. But on top of that, then it could be poor sleep, it could be weight gain, it could be type 2 diabetes. It can go all the way from one end of the scale of a little bit of heartburn and maybe some bloating, all the way to the other end of the scale, cardiovascular disease. All of these can be traced back to the health of our intestine and how it's functioning. So all these microbes are communicating with our brain, with our nervous system. They're supporting our immune system. 90% of our immune system is in our gut. So if our gut microbes are not working effectively, our immune system is going to be compromised. Those gut microbes are important for metabolizing food, for managing our weight, for helping our weight to stay stable, for creating, as I said, the neurotransmitters like melatonin that helps us to sleep, but also serotonin that helps us to feel good. Really important for hormone balance, skin conditions, you name it. Having a healthy gut microbiome is really, really important. So what happens when 21st century life doesn't support this dense population of bacteria? And that is what's happening in 21st century life. Why is this? Why is our microbiome no longer being supported by the way we live today? So there is a number of factors that come into play here. The first is that we are now dependent far more than ever before on a convenience diet, a diet that is processed, that is high in sugar, high in bad fats to give it long shelf life. It's cheap and easy to produce anything that is processed. And also it's designed for taste. It's not designed for health. So the food industry doesn't care about our health at the end of the day. What they care about is how much money they can make. So they want to make foods that taste good, that are slightly addictive, that make us want to eat more of it so that we keep going back for more. There's loads of research now to suggest that the ultra processed foods, for example, are starting to rewire some of the thought processes in our brain to make us go back and eat more of it. And that's not from that sounds like a bit kind of sci-fi. That's not what's happening there, but it's starting to change the chemical makeup of the brain to make us want to crave some of the processed foods even more and more. And they're highly disruptive to the gut bacteria. They don't support the bacteria in any way whatsoever. Our food is kept in cold storage for long periods of time now. So the nutrient content in our food is uppermost when the food is ripe and it's on the tree or on the plant. If we pick something when it's ripe but keep it in cold storage, the nutrient content in that food declines over a period of time whilst it's kept in cold storage. So the half-life of an apple, for example, the nutrient content in an apple is a month. So if we're eating apples now in January that have perhaps grown on the tree back in September, we've got less than a quarter of those nutrients in that apple because it's been kept in cold storage for that period of time. So the longer the food is kept in cold storage, the more the nutrient content reduces, the less nutrients we've got to support the gut bacteria and feed it. And also now we're starting to see our food is being grown out of season, that you can get strawberries on the shelf at any time of the year now. And this is because we force grow crops out of season. And when something is force grown out of season, it tends to have more water than anything else in it. It doesn't have a huge amount of nutrition in it, doesn't have a huge amount of fiber in it. So even when we go into the supermarket now and we buy the fruit and vegetables and think we're making good choices, actually, the way that food is now brought from the kind of farmer's field to the plate essentially is no longer supportive and conducive to a healthy gut microbiome, to feeding our gut microbiome in the right way. That's not to say you shouldn't do it and, oh, let's just forget it all then and go and eat processed food. What I'm saying is we've got to eat more of it than ever before in order to get the benefits from the food that we might have got 50 or 60 years ago. And this is why we're starting to see a decline in the health of the gut microbiome. Another reason, and I've already obviously alluded to this, is the use of antibiotics in 21st century life. Any prescription drug is disruptive to the gut bacteria, but particularly antibiotics. They are there to wipe out bacteria. Doesn't matter whether it's good bacteria or bad bacteria. And that's not to say that antibiotics don't have a role. Absolutely they do. They are really important. Only a couple of months back, I had a bacterial infection in my eye probably from walking dogs and having to hook something out of one of my dog's mouth and then accidentally rubbing my eye. I got a bacterial infection. I ended up on taking antibiotics. Now the difference is, compared to back in 2009, I know exactly what to do to support my gut bacteria and help my gut bacteria to establish post taking the antibiotics. So our antibiotics have a role. Absolutely they do. Many of our prescription drugs do have a role if we can't get on top of it from a natural perspective. So a lot of people are taking drugs because their gut bacteria is not working properly. And if they could solve their gut bacteria and their gut issues, that would have a knock-on effect to the amount of drugs that they actually end up taking. Particularly a good example is something like someone who struggles with regular headaches and migraines. When we take any of the kind of NSAIDs, they're called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, they disrupt the health of the liver. They prevent the liver from producing a couple of substances that help the body to function effectively. When we take those drugs, the liver then can't function effectively, which contributes further to having longer term headaches. And the drug might solve the problem in the moment, but it doesn't solve the problem long term. And the drug also disrupts the health of the gut microbiome. Gut microbiome can't prevent things from passing across, then that's creating toxins in the system that the liver's trying to get rid of. If the system is too toxic, that can result in a headache. We take a drug for it, that doesn't solve the problem, it just puts a sticking plaster on it here and there, here and now, makes that issue worse in the intestine, and so it's a continuing cycle. And so the use of medicine and antibiotics in 21st century life isn't conducive to supporting the health of the gut microbiome. That's not to say you shouldn't take them by any stretch of the imagination, but what we need to do is understand how we can support both taking the medication and supporting our gut bacteria, which is absolutely possible. And then alcohol, any use of alcohol is disruptive to the gut bacteria. Sorry for those of you that like a gin and tonic on a Friday night and things like that. But, and again, I'm not saying you can't ever have alcohol again. What I'm saying is it's all about balance, and it's all about understanding how we support our gut microbiome to mean that every now and again we can enjoy a drink without it disrupting the health of the bacteria. Even just one glass of wine can tip the balance of the gut bacteria over so that the bad bacteria start to get established. And the sugar in alcohol also feeds the yeast in our intestine as well. When plumes of yeast start to establish on the wall of the intestine, they can cause all sorts of issues in their own right as well. So alcohol is not conducive to supporting the balance of the gut bacteria. But as I said, if you had a drink on a Friday night, a couple of glasses of wine on a Friday night, if you know what you need to do to support your gut bacteria going forward for the next 7-10 days, for example, you can repair the damage that the alcohol does in that moment. But it's understanding how to repair it and doing that consistently. What we don't do in 21st century life is understand how we can support our gut bacteria and allow it to repopulate again after that glass of wine. And then environmental toxicity, highly disruptive to the health of the gut bacteria. Skincare products, anything with parabens in it will cause a disruption to the gut bacteria, will cause it to wither and die, basically. Pesticides on our food, pollution in the air, any kind of toxicity creates toxins and endotoxins in the gut that can basically disrupt the health of that bacteria, for the health of those microbes. And then lastly, stress. Stress is huge in 21st century life. And what ends up happening when we are in a stressful situation is the body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol, whilst it's an important hormone, also if it rises too high in the system, can be very disruptive to the body, particularly to the gut flora, to the gut bacteria. It can cause the gut bacteria again to wither and die, and to reduce its ability to be able to do the jobs that it needs to do. And so when we're exposed to long-term stress, often you see people with IBS or other digestive issues. All of that is linked to the amount of cortisol in the body and how disruptive that cortisol is to the balance of the gut bacteria in our intestine. So we've got food, we've got medicines, we've got alcohol, we've got stress, and we've got just functioning on a day-to-day basis sometimes just doesn't support the health of the gut bacteria in any way, shape or form. And so what ends up happening is our gut microbiome is deteriorating. There's been lots of research now to suggest that the health of the bacteria has a role to play right the way across the body, from whether it's from, as I said, from weight loss all the way through to cardiovascular disease. A really great study that was done in University College London by Professor Tim Spector. If you look up Tim Spector, he's really quite prolific in talking about gut health. They did a study with twins. It's called the twin study. And they did a study with a range of identical twins, one twin of which was overweight, the other twin was lean. They took the bacteria, the fecal matter from both twin, and inserted it into sterile mice. And both mice that had, or the mouse that had the fecal matter from the overweight twin became overweight. And the mouse that had the fecal matter from the lean twin stayed lean. And so this really starting to uncover just how important the gut microbiome is to our health, particularly to weight management, all down to the health of our gut microbes, but right across the board. So why is this? What is the makeup of this? Why this gut bacteria is so important to our health? So when we're exposed to any kind of toxins, obviously they go through the digestive system into the gut, okay? If we're under stress, if we're not eating food that is fibrous and supporting the gut bacteria, if we're drinking alcohol on a regular basis, if our lifestyle isn't conducive to supporting our gut bacteria, those toxins and other undigested food particles can start to wear away at the health of the bacteria. And so what should happen is that bacteria forms a really nice strong wall around the gut wall. We have a cell layer called the endothelial cells, which make up the gut wall. And those microbes are forming really nice tight wall to stop anything passing across that shouldn't be passing across. But if we've got toxins in the intestine, if we've got undigested food particles, if stress is high and cortisol is wearing away at the health of that gut bacteria starts to wither and die, and we start to have holes forming in that solid wall that coats the endothelial cells. And so those toxins, pathogens, food particles can start to wear away at the junctions between the endothelial cells and break their way in across the gut wall and into the cardiovascular system. That might be called, in some cases, in extreme cases, it can be called leaky gut, but quite oftentimes, most of us have a few tiny holes in the gut wall that need to be fixed, which is fine. If we've got a few tiny holes that the immune system can then fix, that's fine. Imagine when you cut yourself, you have a little bit of inflammation that forms around the cut, and that inflammation is designed to prevent anything passing across that shouldn't be passing across. So a little bit of inflammation is really healthy. It's really important. So if a couple of toxins break through the endothelial cells and pass into the cardiovascular system, the immune system sends out a message, creates some inflammation around those holes, and let's patch it up. And if it happens once or twice, that's okay. It's just like cutting your finger, but it's when it's happening all the time. So if the gut microbes are not functioning effectively, they're not creating this really solid wall around the intestinal wall, and all these toxins and pathogens are passing across or breaking down the junctions in the endothelial cells and passing across into the intestine, then the body starts to create more and more inflammation all the way around the gut wall. And that's what's known as systemic inflammation. It's deep down inflammation that can really cause disruption to the metabolism. First signs you might notice might be a bit of some joint pain. Joint pain is often a secondary symptom of inflammation around the gut wall. You might notice it being absolutely impossible to manage your weight. You can't, no matter what you do, you can't get your weight down. You might notice that you're more susceptible to colds than ever before. You start getting more and more colds, a little bit of ill health. Your energy levels are not that great on a day-to-day basis. You find yourself kind of dragging your feet through treacle every day. You might notice that your thyroid functions, or your thyroid functions not, or you have a blood test to show that your thyroid function is not as effective as it should be. All of these a disruption to the metabolism, and that all comes back to that systemic inflammation that is around the gut wall. Now, when we have this disruption to the metabolism, often what we end up doing is exactly what I was doing back in 2013. I was reaching for foods that I thought were going to give me energy to lift me throughout the course of the day. So I was eating high sugary foods to try and give me the energy. And what happens then when you eat more and more sugar to kind of lift your metabolism, you start to release more and more insulin. Insulin is the blood sugar hormone. It's designed to keep our blood sugars really stable so that we've got consistent energy throughout the day. But if insulin rises really high in the system, it's a really disruptive hormone. It's a toxic hormone if it rises too high in the system. So it creates basically its own kind of ecosystem, if you like, of hormones, because if it's high in the system, it encourages the release of a hormone called ghrelin, which is a hormone that tells us we're constantly hungry. And so we will find that we're constantly eating. We might find that we've got more desire or more appetite to eat than ever before. And it also suppresses the hormone called leptin, which is the hormone that tells us we're full. So we never get the message to the brain that we need to stop eating. So we start eating more than we've ever eaten before. That's when we might see a little bit of weight gain, and we start to move into that kind of overweight category and maybe the obese category. And we get more and more fat deposited, particularly around the middle part of the body, which contributes further to disruption of the metabolism. And that in itself then results in overall metabolic dysfunction. Those fatty deposits can be deposited in the arteries, for example, to cause cardiovascular issues. They can be deposited in the liver that starts to cause cholesterol issues. Those fatty deposits can be just deposited around the middle. They create their own little ecosystem of hormones again, telling us we're more hungry than we actually are, etc., etc. And so we head into metabolic dysfunction. And at extreme level as well, we start to head into autoimmune conditions. And this is all because the gut bacteria are not providing the protection over the gut wall. They're allowing things to pass across. The body's trying to prevent them from passing across, so setting up inflammation around the gut wall. That inflammation is having a knock-on effect to the metabolism in the body. We start to consume more sugary foods to give us energy, which can result in insulin resistance. Further fat is deposited, and that then in itself leads to metabolic dysfunction, because this fat is in the system that's being deposited either in the fat cells or in the cardiovascular system or in the liver, etc., etc. So the overall outcomes at the lowest level are things like tiredness and poor sleep. At the furthest level, chronic fatigue. At the lowest level might be hormone imbalances, a bit of PMT, but at the highest level, thyroid dysfunction and extreme menopause symptoms. Headaches, or we touched on headaches due to an underfunctioning liver. Inflammation causing joint pain, again, already touched on that, and a weakened immunity. So we're constantly getting ill, never feel like we're well. And then those autoimmune conditions that begin to develop as a result of the high levels of inflammation in the body. So an autoimmune condition is when the immune system starts to essentially attack itself. It's trying to solve the problems. It's in such a heightened state that the body starts to attack itself and starts to cause even further disruption in the body. Fibromyalgia, myalgia, chronic fatigue, great examples of autoimmune conditions, all can be solved by managing the health of our gut bacteria. Poor skin conditions, so acne on the face, psoriasis, rosacea, athlete's foot, all of these caused by particles, toxins passing across the gut wall that shouldn't be passing across because the gut microbiome is not working properly and the body's trying to get rid of them out of the skin. So any kind of skin condition can be directly linked back to the health of the intestine. Stubborn weight, already talked about the twin study, type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. The more our insulin goes out of alignment, the more we head into insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. All of these things can be linked back to the health of the gut microbiome. It's not hocus pocus, it's not woo-woo, it's simple science that says that if our gut microbiome is not working properly, that is going to have a knock-on effect right the way across the rest of the body, to our longevity, to our long-term well-being, to how we function as well on a daily basis. So how would it feel to have boundless energy every day, to have clear, healthy skin, to sleep deeply every night, to get rid of your menopause symptoms or other hormone imbalances, to have complete mental clarity, get rid of bloating and IBS, ease your joint pain, and unlock your full potential? And you can absolutely do that when your gut bacteria is working effectively. So how do you heal your gut in 3 easy steps? The first is to remove those refined foods, refined sugar, anything ultra processed from your diet. Anything with cheap saturated fats, anything with a long shelf life is not going to be conducive to supporting the bacteria in your intestine. And also cutting down and reducing as much as possible the alcohol, the gluten, and the dairy in your diet on a daily basis. Then you want to focus on getting as much leafy green vegetables into your diet as possible. These contain substances called short-chain fatty acids that will feed the gut bacteria. They will support the gut bacteria and help them to grow and flourish. And you want to have protein for breakfast, because protein for breakfast will help to keep your blood sugars balanced throughout the day. If your blood sugars are balanced, you're not in a stressful situation, your body's not stressed, you won't be releasing cortisol. Cortisol can't do the disruption to the gut bacteria it would do if your blood sugars were up and down, up and down, up and down throughout the course of the day. And then consuming lots of prebiotics. Anything basically green is a prebiotic pretty much, but you want to consume things like garlic, leeks, onions, all the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, all really great and supportive to the gut bacteria. And then also probiotic foods as well, anything fermented, kimchi, miso, all of those fermented foods are also great to support your intestine. Now, this is the process that I went through for 18 months to heal my gut. What I didn't have then was what we have now, which is an intestinal reset program that is a supplementation program. I didn't have access to that supplementation program. So it took me a lot longer to heal my intestine over 18 months than it does now, because we have available to us a clinically trialed supplementation program that we're going to talk about a little bit more. I'm actually going to hand over to Babita to talk about it. It's our Pure 21 program, which is our intestinal reset program that is a clinically trialed supplementation program designed to reset the health of your intestine. So I'm going to hand over to you, Babita.
Thank you, Sue. Sue, that was amazing. It is interesting because even one 7-day course of antibiotics can take about 18 months for your gut to recolonize with all of the healthy gut flora in your intestine. So that is interesting. So you could be eating really well. You could be doing all of those things that Sue had recommended, the green leafy vegetables, the fermented food, eating the rainbow and getting your prebiotics and probiotics in by food, eating all the probiotics are the fermented foods like kimchi, kefir, kombucha, live yogurt. But don't get me wrong, when I first heard about the Pure 21 program, The first time I heard about it, I was very skeptical, thinking about how could this program actually reseal those walls that Sue was talking about in your gut. So making them strong and tight like this, when you might have been experiencing leaky gut or holes in your gut, so it's more like that. So then that toxins are going into your body. Even though I knew so much about nutrition and eating well, I even told my own clients to always supplement with a really good multivitamin and mineral supplementation, but also to take vitamin D, especially at this time of year where we're living now, where we get no sunlight, especially between the months of October and March. When I looked at this, and I really did look at it, this made me realise it's actually 5 steps ahead. I questioned Sue stringently about the efficacy, the ethical sourcing of the product, the bioavailability to the product, and I was satisfied with the answers that she gave me, and I realised that what this does, it's so ahead of just supplementing yourself with other things, because it's actually cleaning the cardiovascular system to deliver the nutrients, cleaning the gut and the intestine, which is where you want the gut flora to go, putting the good gut flora back in and allowing the body to actually absorb those dietary changes that you're making in your lifestyle, in your food. But I wanted to test drive it myself. Like Sue said, she likes to test things on herself. I did as well. So before Christmas, probably the worst time to do a detox, I decided to test drive it. I experienced firsthand how those vitamins were being distributed in my own body. I could feel the difference. And the reason I particularly wanted to try the products was because just recently I've been diagnosed with high cholesterol for the first time in my adult life. It's not because I'm overweight or have a really bad diet. It's simply because of my ethnicity, coming from an Indian background. It's genetic, we're genetically disposed to this, and diabetes. And on top of that, I was informed that I'm in perimenopause. So the fact that I don't have my estrogen levels now protecting me and protecting my cholesterol levels, I know that I really have to be very careful about my cholesterol. Anyway, before we move on onto the products, and because it matters to a lot of people, the Pure 21 program and all of the products in it are completely vegan, apart from the vitamin D in the pro-arginine drink, which comes from the sheep's wool, only the wool, so no sheep were actually harmed. So that's really important. The packaging is all biodegradable, and all of the supplements are actually concentrated natural forms from food itself, but really concentrated into the actual nutrient you're getting. It's safe for people who have diabetes type 1 or type 2. It's safe for celiacs, safe if you've got colitis or Crohn's disease, and it's safe for people who have autoimmune disease like fibromyalgia or ME or chronic fatigue syndrome. But if you were concerned about your particular health condition, then we would obviously be pleased to talk you through that. So what does it all entail? What did I have to do on this program? Right, so what you're doing is you're removing completely out of your diet all of the crap, which is a brilliant acronym. The crap stands for C is the caffeine, the R is refined carbohydrates and sugars, the A, unfortunately, is the alcohol. I can feel the daggers coming for me now, but this is for 21 days, and like Sue explained before, you slowly start to reintroduce these foods after, but while you're healing your gut, the alcohol is not going to be helpful. And the P is all processed and packaged foods, which are always high in salts, chemicals, and sugar, which is also not conducive to a very good gut. What it is not a fad diet. It is not a food replacement, quick weight loss diet or anything like that. And as a nutritionist, that was really important to me, because we actually want you to eat 3 solid, clean meals every day. If you're stuck for ideas, that's not going to be a problem, because there's actually a handbook that comes with the system, which is full of gut-friendly recipes, really tasty recipes as well. So there's also a chart which tells you what to take and when to take it. The supplements themselves are they're targeted and they're nutrient-dense supplements that whatever sacrifices you make, they more than enough make up for it. It was actually hard for me to keep up with the good food, the good diet, and the supplementation. So you're not really losing a lot. Excitingly, the whole program was actually featured in the Guardian paper, in the health section, like the Reset New Year section of the Guardian. And that is brilliant, because it focused on this actual Purified program, because the company does many programs, but this is the one that will kickstart your health goals. And I can vouch for that. So during the process of the 21 days, there was some difficulty in it, but I was really surprised at my results. My results were, I completely got rid of brain fog. I had got to a stage where my work is highly demanding. I look after 3 executives full-time as their personal assistant. And I was double checking myself and double guessing and feeling overwhelmed with all of their shifting diaries, their travel plans and everything like that. But while I was on this cleanse and reset of the gut and cleansing of the liver, I actually found I was skipping through my to-do list. I was still facing the same stresses, but I was handling the stress in a different way. I felt focused. I also had a lot of energy. I didn't get the usual 3 p.m. slump, which I was getting because of perimenopausal symptoms, being tired, not sleeping well. My sleep improved, so my energy improved, but my energy was up anyway. I didn't get the sort of feeling in the afternoon at work where I just wanted to, slump over my laptop. My perimenopausal aching hands, joints in my hands and feet in particular, seem to have improved significantly. And one of the biggest things was I'm quite prone to bloating if I eat the wrong things. But all that discomfort from eating well and using the supplements, my belly bloat completely went down. It's not a weight loss program per se, but obviously when you're balancing your gut, you're affecting your digestion, you're improving your metabolism. And I was completely shocked to be 7 pounds lighter after 21 days. My jeans were loose and I had reduced my waist by 5 centimeters. All in all, I felt fantastic on it. There were some tough days, as you can imagine. We all have our habits, and I was surprised at the amount of energy I had without caffeine. So, but some days it was hard. It's not a walk in the park. It does take a lot to completely change your mindset about what you're eating, especially when you're used to your whatever it is, the morning coffee or whatever it is you go for. But what I would say is that there are harder things in life to deal with than a 21-day gut reset challenge, definitely. And would I say it's worth it? Definitely. What I'll do is I'll let Sue explain a little bit about the products.
Okay, yeah, and I just have to say there, Babita, that there were a couple of days in the early days of you doing the program where you messaged me and said, "Can I have a cup of tea?" I was like,
I know.
Sorry, what else can I have? Hot water. But
anyone who knows me knows that I drink about 8 cups of tea a day. So that was a challenge. Yes, it was. But like I said, there are harder things in life to do, and the results were amazing.
Yeah, you really benefited from the staying strong around the cup of tea, didn't you? So Yeah. So yeah, the program is 5 clinically trialed products that have all been manufactured in our Hughes Centre of Research and Innovation, which is our research centre that is attached to Synergy's head office. And all the products have been designed to work together to improve the health of someone's gut bacteria, to strengthen the health of the gut wall, to improve the function of the liver, and to improve the cardiovascular system and allow for nutrients to move around the body more effectively, and to balance blood sugars. So all of those things that I talked about at the on that slide of the arrows going around the blue boxes, the blood sugar imbalance, the health of the liver, the health of the intestinal wall, all of them, these 5 products working together will really support and improve your overall health across your body, not just your gut microbiome. There is a cardiovascular support drink that supports the health of the liver and improves the distribution of nutrients around the cardiovascular system. The BioMDT is a highly fibrous drink with includes an amino acid called glutamine, which is really healing to the gut wall. Body Prime is our magnesium supplement that draws water into the intestine to help move waste through and improve the peristaltic movement. Then we've got the Biome Actives, which are a pre and probiotic, and also our Biome Shake, which is a pea protein that supports blood sugar balance, and that one we use just as a snack after a meal, for example, just to keep blood sugars really nicely balanced. And it also includes lots of inulin, which is a great prebiotic that feeds the gut bacteria. I won't go into any more detail there, but just suffice to say that as a program, it has been clinically trialed and it has been shown to all these products work really well together to get the result that Babita was talking about just now.
Thank you, Sue. And one thing I will mention about the products is they all taste absolutely fantastic. I am not just saying that, they really do taste good. And I actually do miss some of the products, so I've reintroduced them as part of a maintenance plan.
And actually, I should say as well that they're all organic as well. They're all organic and highly tested for any impurities. So there won't be anything in there that shouldn't be in there, basically.
Yeah. Which is why they're so suitable for anyone, really. You know, you'd have to be in quite a chronic situation not to be able to take these products. So these 5 products, they are quality tested. They are actually targeting the functions of your organs, so the liver, the intestine, and then the cardiovascular drink. That is very important because the cardiovascular drink actually opens the capillaries in your liver and all of your organs, and actually clears plaques away from your arteries to allow those blasts of nutrients that you're getting to actually get into your body. So there's 5 products there, and those 5 products are normally only £350, including coaching. But remember, this is a complete health investment. You're actually buying back time. You're undoing some of the damage, and you're refitting and repopulating some of the good back into your body. So you might have said to yourself, well, that's really expensive, but try maybe asking yourself, how does it sit to say, oh, my health's not really worth all that? That feels a bit different, doesn't it? I'm sure if you're on this call today, you feel that your health is actually priceless. But even at that price, say, for instance, the benefits last a long time, but say they only lasted about 4 months, for argument's sake, then you just look at it as about £87 a month. That's probably less than all of your family subscriptions to Audible, Amazon, Netflix, your broadband, your family's mobile packages and TV packages, which are actually not doing that much for your long-term health. For me personally, this is like taking out my own health insurance policy, safeguarding me, controlling my cholesterol, protecting me from the risk of heart disease post-menopause, and type 2 diabetes, which is in our family. So it's doing all of that and benefiting me in numerous ways. It's healing my gut. It's making me less bloated. I can tolerate things, because let's face it, as we get older, the gut lining is getting weaker. There's not much getting stronger as we get older. Unfortunately, everything does start to deteriorate a little bit more. Luckily for you lucky people today, it's not going to be £350. We're taking a 30% saving today, and it's going to be £247 only. Taken with the same analogy, that's about £15 a week, with the benefits lasting approximately 4 months. They actually last longer, but taken with the same analogy. So £15, that's quite doable, isn't it? That's probably your week's spend in coffee, which you wouldn't be taking anyway, because it's not part of the program. So it's hugely discounted for you today. And on top of that, you're actually coached at that price, which is worth £100 in itself anyway. So you'll have 2 coaches, myself and Sue. We'll take you all the way through it. That's not usually part of the normal retail price. We'll hold your hand if you need us to. We'll give you the full information on how to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, because your gut and intestines are very emotional organs. You know, you hear people say gut feeling, or when they're nervous about something, where does it go? Straight to the stomach, doesn't it? So it's quite it affects you on so many levels, but it really does protect you on so many levels. So for that £247, you would get the pre-tox support. So even before you start, you'd get support from us. There'll be a pre-cleanse questionnaire and health assessment. There's a concise handbook, which includes charts that tell you when and what to take on the various stages of the cleanse. It's got amazing gut-friendly recipes in there that you can keep forever. That's yours to keep. And we'll also share with you how your meals need not be any different or too different from your family's meals. So you don't have to make totally different things to your family. There's a whole video playlist to guide you on how what's happening in your body as you go along the stage. Not one for every day, but as you go along, you can watch them all the way through, or you can watch them as you go through the different stages. There's a 24/7 private WhatsApp group for motivation or any questions, which myself and Sue will be on. And obviously you get the 5 super supplements, a private Facebook group, and we also then guide you as you come off it, how to maintain your results and what to do going forward. So that's actually a lot. Obviously, as much as we'd love to coach all of you on this program, because it is such a beneficial program. But at this special price, we're actually capping the amount of people that we can coach, and that would be a group of around 8 people. So 8 lucky people can definitely take advantage of this amazing offer. You don't need to decide right now. We're not taking orders today. We're leaving orders open till Saturday, January the 28th, for you to decide. That will give us time to order the kits, and then we'll start a group coaching, joint start on Monday the 6th of February, and I'll actually be doing it with you. So I like to do it again. We'll send an email that will explain exactly how to join. You'll have our contact details if you have any queries. If you feel that it might not be for you, or you have some concerns, then definitely address them to us, and we'll see about your certain health situation and the suitability. If we don't have your email, for instance, if you join this call through LinkedIn, then just simply drop me a message there, a private message, and I'll get the essential information to you. So we're really both very excited about having this small group of people doing the cleanse. And we hope that we have explained it to you fully in all the context of how much benefit you would be getting.
Does anyone have any questions? Please feel free to put them in the chat box if you do, and we'll answer them now. If not, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Hope you found that useful. Do you have got anything else you want to say, Babita?
Just thank you to everybody staying with us this long and hearing about the great benefits from doing a gut reset. I definitely will definitely keep doing these at least once a year, because I think it's a good maintenance program. It really does make you feel good. So I just wanted to thank you. And for those who I have an email contact for, I'll send an email either later this evening, by very latest tomorrow evening. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.